door, we're coming through. When the sky is falling, what keeps the sky from falling? As you do, ordinary giants. Ordinary giants. Ordinary giants. Much like me and you. Well, you'll have seen us with the charter. You'll have seen us stop the war. Hold the door, we're coming through. We're the flowers in the garden. All the work that went before. Hold the door, we're coming through. When the sky is falling, who keeps the sky from falling? As you do, ordinary giants. Ordinary giants. Ordinary giants. Much like me and you. Yeah, well, of course it takes forever, but one day we'll all get there. Hold the door, we're coming through. When the war is over and the peace has been declared, hold the door, we're coming through. When the sky is falling, what keeps the sky from falling? As you do, ordinary giants. Ordinary giants. Ordinary giants, much like me and you. And with our children on our shoulders, this is how we touch the sky. Hold the door, we're coming through. We will give them wings, and they will learn to fly. Hold the door, we're coming through. When the sky is falling, who keeps the sky from falling? As you do, ordinary giants. Ordinary giants. Ordinary giants. Much like me and you. Who are we? Ordinary giants. Ordinary giants. Ordinary giants. Much like me and you. And this is the song that I was singing last time we were here. Like for Christmas? What would you like for Christmas? What would you like for Christmas? Snow would be nice for a change. I wrote to Santa, but he just wrote back, my budget's been cut, so I've just got the sack. To me that's a bit like politics. It would be nice for a change if you could vote for what you want to vote for instead of just more of the same. So I'd still vote Jeremy Corbyn. I'd still vote Jeremy C. I like his ideas, they're fair and they're clear. Checks around me, we agree. They're all for peace and justice and anti-austerity. I'd still vote Jeremy Corbyn, Jason for PM for me. I'd still like no one being homeless. Good jobs and fair pay for all. No fracking tribe, I'd rather we spend our money on houses and hospitals and schools. I don't want hate or humbug. What good is that gonna do? I'd like to vote for us sharing the pudding, not stuffing all year for a few, Boris. So I'm voting Jeremy Corbyn. I'm voting Jeremy C. Yeah, I like his ideas. They're fair and they're clear. Jezza and me, we agree. We're all for peace and justice and anti-austerity. I'd still vote Jeremy Corbyn, JC4P and for me. I'd still vote Jeremy. Would you? Yeah. I'd still vote Jeremy Corbyn. I'd still vote Jeremy C. I like his ideas. They're fair and they're clear. Jezza and me, we agree. We're all for peace and justice and anti-austerity. Yeah, I still vote Jeremy Corbyn, JC4P and for me. I still vote Jeremy Corbyn, JC4P and for me.
Rob Johnson, a round of applause for Rob Johnson. Now, we've got lots of awards to go through, and you know what those award ceremonies are like. They tend to go on and on and on, and I don't want that to happen. So everyone who wins an award, please don't cry too much and let's keep it short. Our first award for tonight goes to the Pundit of the Year, and for me there's been one man that has entertained me all year with his observations about politics and what's happening, and he doesn't tend to mince his words either. I'm just checking it's the right name in this envelope. Right. Yes, it is, yes, it's John Dunn.
People say, why don't you move on? Why don't you forget? It was a long time ago. Well, 32 years ago, I was a Derbyshire miner. All I wanted was the right to work. In response to that fight, I received a criminal record, a broken head, severe concussion, and bail conditions that were the most prohibitive in the Western world. That's why I'm fighting for justice. I carry that criminal conviction to this day. I've still got the scar on the back of my head where a copper smashed the back of it in. 11,000 of us were charged with criminal records. 7,000 of us received hospital treatment or medical aid for injuries sustained in fighting for our jobs. The ultimate justice will be revenge and building a decent society where working class people matter and it's people, not profit. Thank you. They are afraid of the united working class, the Shrewsbury campaigners, who in the 70s, their leaders were jailed. One of them died as a result of his treatment. We've got the blacklist lads and lasses who are denied the right to even feed their families. There are women here where the police form illicit relationships. They've always been afraid of us.
John Dunn.
I've only got a few minutes, comrades, but before I start, can we all say thank you to Crispin for putting this on? And for giving us every Sunday morning an oasis of sanity in this crazy, crazy world. Now, just over 2 years ago, we were crushed, weren't we? We'd had a defeat. The Tories had got a massive 80-seat majority. We'd worked our socks off. I myself, on behalf of our Orgreave campaign, worked in 4 separate constituencies in all weathers and in the torrential rain on that day of election day. Not only did we have the devastation of that loss, but shortly after, we found that a 5th column of scabs and traitors inside the party had been working against us. And now we see the consequences of their actions. Almost 200,000 dead from COVID, the NHS in its death throes, poverty, the people who are hardest off in society being attacked by this government, and these scabs and traitors caused it. So yeah, be angry with the Tories, but be angry with the traitors, the 5th column in our own ranks. For me, it was particularly gut-wrenching because our Orgreave campaign's one and only chance of seeing justice. I'd been trying personally, up to that time for 36 years, to clear my name of those convictions that I mentioned in that film. All gone because of some shiny-suited, pointy-toed bastards in Labour Party headquarters. But comrades, you know, we might be here because we've been expelled, suspended, or whatever. You know, and the disgusting throwaway line that if it upsets you, ring the Samaritans. They bloody keep hanging up on me, I've rung them that many times. But if these people think that they can kill the ideas that we campaign for, the ideas that we have given most of our adult lives to fighting for, if they think that suspensions, expulsions will make us go away, what we have to do, comrades, is channel that disappointment into anger, and let's make sure that our voice remains strong. We might not be inside the Labour Party. To be honest, I think they've done me a favour. I don't have to listen to councillors talking about dog shit and hanging baskets every meeting. But we walk in the footsteps of absolute giants. And okay, it's not very nice just being thrown out of something you've given your lives to. Well, let's put that in perspective. Our forefathers were lined up against walls and shot. The Tolpuddle martyrs were sent to the far ends of the earth. People at Peterloo were butchered. We stand in their footsteps, whereas the traitors swim in the sewers of scabs throughout history. The Jimmy Thomases, the Neil Kinnocks, and that war criminal Tony Blair. Comrades, Let's put our energies. The movement is starting to waken up. We're seeing disputes springing out. We've seen the election of Sharon Graham in Unite. We've got Ian Hodson here, one of the greatest trade unions, the Bakers Union in this country. And they've left. I don't think, Ian, it stopped you fighting for your members or anything. So, comrades, enjoy the festive season. Do whatever you do. But let's get that anger fighting strong in the new year. Polish your picketing boots and get ready for action. 'Cause, comrades, next time we win. Solidarity.
John Dunn. Follow that, eh? Follow that, eh? Right. The next award winner, the next prize is for Campaign of the Year. There's obviously been a lot of campaigns this year, but I haven't seen any from Keir Starmer. So he's obviously not up for this award. But the winner of this award is a group that have been doing so much to help people who've been suspended and smeared and expelled and auto-excluded and all the other... Terminator's the other one now. Please, can you make some noise for Jewish Voice for Labour?
Very small profits indeed, but I've been a part of number all this time in 8 different constituency parties in once in 50 years have I ever witnessed an incident of anti-Semitism. The people who are putting out these smears are those who are trying to undermine the Labour leadership and the party in the run-up to the elections. And what they're doing is this. It's a combination of the right wing of the party who want to undermine Jeremy and the pro-Israel lobby who conflate anti-Semitism with criticism of Israel. And it's a cruel deception.
I'm going to grab my little moment in the spotlight for Hastings and Rye and also for the Jewish Voice for Labour. The Jewish Labour movement have every right to organise in this Labour Party. The right they do not have is to speak for me, the other Jewish members of Hastings and Rye, and many other Jewish Labour members in this place.
I'm chair of the Jewish Voice for Labour. The Board of Deputy and Jewish Leadership Council do not speak for us, are nothing to do with the Labour Party.
We in Jewish Voice for Labour and many of our friends really resent the fact that it's presented as if there's one internationally recognised definition and all Jews want it. We don't. The harshest critics, the most coherent critics, have been leading Jewish intellectuals.
The conversation about Israel and Palestine and Palestinian rights in the Labour Party has more or less ceased. People are so nervous now of saying the wrong thing. I think that's another serious crisis that we should be talking about.
Jewish Voice for Labour. We've got Graham Bash, we've got Naomi Whitball-Idrissi, and we've got Leah Levain.
Well, comrades, I've been given the death slot. How do you follow John Dunn's great speech? I give this pledge, I'm never going to speak after you again, John. Comrades, this is the real Labour Party here tonight. Each of us fighting for socialism and human liberation. So thank you, Crispin, for bringing us all together. And thank you for breaking down that division between those recently expelled, the acceptable ones like me and Leah, and on the other hand, those who came before us, who sections of the left threw under a bus. Those like Jackie Walker, Mark Wadsworth, Tony Greenstein, And I see here tonight David Watson, who should be remembered. Chris Williamson, the only Labour MP to stand publicly in support of the witch hunted, and Ken Livingston, the best anti-racist our party has ever had. The allegations of anti-Semitism against him were an obscenity. These are our comrades, and I know firsthand from Jackie the impact this has had on her, fighting at times almost alone. Comrades, it's a privilege to fight our class enemies, whether Tories or right-wing Labour, a privilege. But when you're abandoned by those you thought were your socialist allies, this does take its toll. We're activists, but we're human beings too. So it's not acceptable when leading sections of Labour's left, even now, refuse to share platforms with the expelled and proscribed. Solidarity will be precious in the fight to rebuild the resistance as the establishment faction attempts to destroy our party. Let's be clear, this witch hunt is a form of class war, and we, the expelled and proscribed, are mere collateral damage in that war. And a final word on JVL. I am so proud to be part of it. We have challenged that cruel, cynical deception, a crude factional manoeuvre that the Labour Party is overrun with anti-Semites. Just imagine for a moment how it would have been if JVL had not been here to confront that narrative. Comrades, we're facing the fight of our lives. Keep up the struggle within the Labour Party if we may, outside if we must. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. We're going to try not to hog the limelight for once, but there are loads of JVL people here. Laura will mention a few other names. I'm Naomi Wimborne-Idrisi, and I couldn't be prouder to be here celebrating my birthday with Graham and Leah. Oh, thank you. I'm blushing now. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I hadn't expected that at all. I've got a little message for you. Oh, Crispin, honestly. That is so, honestly, solidarity and cake as well. I mean, what more could you want? Thank you. Oh, brilliant. That's lovely. I'll share it out, promise. I've got a little message for you from the great Miriam Margolyes, who, when she heard about this, said she can't be here, but she's with us in spirit. She hates the Tories so much, she wants us all to go out and tactical vote, which I know some of us don't find are very helpful. Yeah, but you know, she's with us in spirit, that's the important thing. Well, as you know, JVL has spent 4 years battling to help party members, standing in solidarity with Palestinians, to do so with a clear understanding of the difference between hostility to Jews, which is bad, and hostility to Zionism and apartheid Israel, which is our good right and totally justified. I've often been stupefied by the utter absurdity of some of the attacks weaponising anti-Semitism against the left. So many people in the room have experienced this. Who remembers the surreal episode in April 2018 when Jeremy Corbyn celebrated Passover at a Seder meal organised by the radical Jewish collective Judas? That's spelt Jews. DAS. So as you can tell from their name, they use satire to promote their unique brand of activist, socialist and diaspora Judaism. I was in Brighton at the time for the National Education Union conference, annual meeting. At about 11 p.m. on April the 2nd, a tweet started to circulate declaring that Corbyn's attendance at the Jewish Seder was a blatant dismissal of the case made, I'm reading here, for tackling anti-Semitism in Labour. Hashtag enough is enough. There you go. It was from somebody called Angela Smith, a Labour MP who jumped ship a year later to join Change UK. She couldn't even spell Seder. Foolish woman, I thought, that smear will never stick. I chuckled. Well, next morning, turning on breakfast TV, there it was, and all over the media, condemning Corbyn for associating with a group that they said had attacked the mainstream community's concerns about Labour anti-Semitism. I mean, really. Judas defended itself robustly. They linked the radical traditions that they and JVL share with Jeremy's anti-racist politics. The leader of the opposition joining 100 young Jews for a Passover meal was surely good news, wasn't it? But no, if you're determined to brand Jeremy Corbyn an anti-Semite, literally any story will do. And so it has continued, as many of the good comrades here can testify. So I'll just finish by saying thanks again, Crispin, for bringing us together in solidarity. Thank you very much.
Thanks. I'm really proud, so I put the award there. I don't know if it would be literally an award. I'm very proud to be here and up here with two other JVL officers, but I wasn't actually one of the founder members, and some of them are here tonight, and I would like to ask all the JVL members who are here, particularly the officers, actually any of you, please stand up, because I think you all deserve a round of applause. And I can certainly testify that Mike and Glyn and Jonathan were certainly here just a few months before me. I came on board quite quickly, but I wasn't my idea. But as Graham said, imagine if it wasn't here, and imagine also if it had been there a year or two earlier, then some of the people that Graham mentioned might not have felt quite so isolated. But the reality is that JVL shouldn't be necessary. It absolutely shouldn't be necessary. I don't think any members of JVL joined or rejoined the Labour Party for this fight. We became Labour Party members and activists because we cared about ending poverty, inequality, opposing privatisation, opposing war, and many other reasons. But instead, what we saw was outside and inside the party, both the fear and the power of the ruling class, attacking all of us who dare to believe that another world is possible. And I do not for 1 minute believe that the attacks are about deep concern for Jewish people, or actually even about Israel. What is so terrifying for the ruling class is even the slight redistribution of wealth that Jeremy Corbyn was proposing. They fear anything that centres people rather than profits. But then there are some inconvenient Jews, like us in JVL, like Judas, and I can assure you, and I think many of you know, there are many others across the world. Some of us meet regularly on Zoom with a group of Jews from South Africa, New Zealand, Canada, the United States, France, Germany, etc., etc., etc. We like to call ourselves global Jews for Palestinians. But we're very inconvenient. And of course there are many in Israel too. Not enough, but there are many in Israel who think just as I do, who are against the occupation, who are against Zionism and the oppression of the state. It's not doing any good for anybody. So there are all people who dare to stand up for rights and justice of Palestinians, get dismissed as sham Jews. And the obvious point, one, if you can remember back to me ranting in the video, the point I was trying to make in that speech in 2007 was the very obvious point is that members of communities do not think the same on every issue as all other members of that community. To say otherwise is clearly nonsensical, and yet on things like the IHRA non-definition and on the centrality of Israel in our Jewish identity, no dissent is allowed. We consider that this is anti-Semitic, and it leads to the ludicrous, frankly ludicrous situation whereby you are significantly more likely to be disciplined for anti-Semitism by Labour if you are Jewish than if you are not. And, as you saw on the video, if you're on the leadership of JVL, you're almost certain to be targeted. I don't think there's anyone here tonight who hasn't had some form of disciplinary process. I'll use the word loosely. Things are changing a bit, apart from the big struggles that John referred to outside, even within the Jewish community. Just a few days ago, on Sunday, the Union of Jewish Students, new word, passed a motion noting that 40% of British Jews do not identify as Zionists, and that the Union of Jewish Students should welcome all Jewish students, and that non-Zionist students have not been made welcome. Well, it shouldn't really be noteworthy because it's stating the obvious, but actually it's a really important development. One of these days, maybe the Labour Party might recognise this too. Meanwhile, la lutte continua.
Jewish Voice for Labour, round of applause, Jewish Voice for Labour. Okay, our next award is for Councillor of the Year, and there's two awards for Councillor of the Year. We don't have many socialist councillors, do we, in the country? Are we? Sure. I haven't noticed that many wherever I've been. But so we've got an award for Councillor of the Year, and the first award goes to Pamela Fitzpatrick.
Former MP that was taught by somebody I know, and he wanted to go into politics and he didn't know whether to be in the Labour Party or the Conservative Party. It was seen as just a job, not from your heart and what you care about, being justice and changing things. And that's what we need to change. It's our party, not theirs. It's a battle, I know, it's constantly a battle. And I've really had that the last 5-6 years, I can't tell you. I thought I was just a kind of middle-aged mum that worked in a charity, and suddenly I'm kind of this dangerous, radical or whatever, because my views are different to the people who want to control our party.
Pamela Fitzpatrick.
So, if Graham thought it was bad following John, I'm following John and JVL, so that's really bad, Crispin. I don't really agree with the premise of heroes, because heroes, they let you down, and they're individuals, aren't they? And individuals are human. And And also, like many people, I don't feel much like a hero because the Labour Party do their utmost to dehumanise socialists. They do their utmost to make you feel that you have no worth whatsoever. And I know that will resonate with some people here who everybody thinks are magnificent, strong human beings. But so many people have told me that the way that they've been treated by the Labour Party has caused them to suffer poor mental health, poor physical health, to lose their confidence and to feel that they have no self-worth. So what I do agree with is people coming together, because that's where we have excelled, that's where we have all the gains in the past have come from individuals, their collective action. And the last couple of years really have shown us that there are a lot of cowards who have flinched, and there's a lot of traitors who have sneered. But the one person who has brought us together and has been fearless, absolutely fearless, and it's not something I would have expected, has been willing to invite ordinary people to come and speak, has invited people who've been expelled, suspended, it doesn't matter, and that's Crispin. And honestly, it takes a lot to get me up on a Sunday morning, almost every Sunday morning. But I do for Crispin because I've got a lot of time for him, because he's been really solid. How many on the left have run away? How many on the left don't want to share a platform with people who really are heroes, even though I don't agree with that concept, of course. So, where are we? I've been expelled from the Labour Party. I've had this for about 6 years now. I think I was suspended on the same day as John Dunn last time in 2016. And with Ian? With Ronnie Draper I was suspended with last time. Now I'm finally expelled. I am appealing and I will challenge it because I am a fighter. I fought all my life. But mainly because I think that the people sitting in Labour HQ and in CLPs have no authority, have no right to be expelling people like Graham Bash, people like John Dunn. You see what they have done. And these cowards and traitors, they will be holding fundraising events, showing, Pride and other films of the miners' strikes and everything else, and claiming our history. It is not their history. These same people have always attacked the left. If you go back to Nye Bevan and before. So what are we doing now? Well, we've got to stay strong. It's the worst time that I can remember in the Labour Party, and I've been in the party a long time. And the reason it's so bad is that there is no adherence to fairness, no adherence to fair process, no adherence to the Human Rights Act that we introduced. And when we hear of the government talking about removing the Human Rights Act, of imprisoning people for participating in demonstrations, where is the Labour Party? It's very hard for the Labour Party to say anything because they're doing much the same within the party. So we do need to speak out about this. So we need to challenge what's going on. And people say to me, well, why do you want to be in a party like this? I don't know, I'll have to get some help at some point. But it goes back to, it is our party. The real Labour Party, the people like Crispin who week after week give his time to bring us together. And whilst the Labour Party at central office and in the CLP ECs may have done their best to make me feel isolated, to make me feel worthless, I know that through people like Crispin and others, I've made connections with comrades all around the UK. And that solidarity is what will make us win in the end. So we are in terrible times, and as I keep using this phrase, so does Graham, the reason it's so terrible is that they saw that we came close to power. And it wasn't just about Jeremy. Much as I love Jeremy, and he would say the same, Jeremy was thrust into the leadership through the grassroots. We pushed him into that leadership. Maybe he wasn't ready at the time, but it is us, the grassroots, that will make that happen again. And that is what they fear. And they are clinging on to power because that old world of politics is dying and the new one is struggling to be born. And now is the time of monsters. You know what we do with monsters. So it is a struggle. Stay with us, everybody. Reach out to people, your comrades, if you're feeling isolated. There's a lot of us about. There's far more of us than there are of them. Solidarity.
Now the next prize is for the Union of the Year. Is anyone in the Union here? Yeah. Do you want to shout some unions out that you like? Who? Right, sorry, no, it's not bingo. The winner of Union of the Year is the Bakers Union. And we have Ian Hodgson is here to pick up the award.
So unacceptable that in the United Kingdom, the 5th richest economy in the world, we seem to have gone through this period of accepting that our children's lives will be made worse, that our old people will be treated more unfairly, and then we see situations such as the Grenfell disaster that has been made to happen because a building looked so ugly that the people of Kensington and Chelsea demanded that it be clad to make it more acceptable for them to view from their mansions, because that was an issue of austerity, an issue of class. Jeremy Corbyn has inspired our young people, he's inspired our elderly people, he's inspired working people, he's inspired a whole class.
Sending support and solidarity to all those who have been demonised and smeared for believing it's possible to live in a world where all our lives are valued. Not some more than others, there are no expendable people, and it's time we understood that when we stand together, we are unstoppable. And it doesn't matter which politicians are in Westminster, change can and does and will happen. Solidarity.
Ian Hodgson and the Bakers Union.
Comrades, sisters, I'd like to thank the agent for obviously this award and obviously the things that he's been doing on my behalf. Listen, it's a pleasure to be here tonight, and I would like also to thank Crispin for the work that he's done. Certainly during lockdown, but before lockdown as well. And I mean, I know the situation that Crispin faces now for raising thousands and thousands of pounds to enable people to stand in constituencies and to have a chance of changing society. I mean, Crispin's crime is that he stood and wanted to see change. And for that, he's been suspended from the Labour Party. And, you know, it's unacceptable. I said it before and I'll say it again. It's unacceptable that people have been demonised for wanting to say that it's right that Palestinians have a right to exist and a right to live. No human being should be expected to go to bed and not know if their family will be around in the morning. And if anybody doesn't believe that we have a right to live as people, they are not in the right party, because the Labour Party should stand for the right of life for all people. All people. Israelis, Palestinians, black, white, irrelevant. All people. That's who the Labour Party should stand for. The people that have been demonised want to see a change in the world that we live in. And they've been demonised for wanting to see the answer to capitalism, which is socialism. Socialism! It's not what the current Labour Party stands for. It's not standing in the interest of the reason why in 1902 the Bakers' Food and Allied Workers Union levied its members to create 100 workers to build that party to represent the laboured class that goes yesterday and says that we will mandate all health workers to be vaccinated or be sacked. That is not how you stand up for working people. We stand up for working people by making sure we improve their lives, and we say full sick pay for anybody that gets infected by COVID. Full sick pay for when people need to isolate. We say that every worker should be earning no less than £15 an hour. No worker should be expected to go out and try and earn a living and a decent life on a 0 hours contract. That's how the Labour Party stands up for working people. And it's a real privilege, and I agree with Pam, by the way. I ain't no hero, but there's lots of heroes in this room. John Dunn, the first person I ever met that attacked a policeman's truncheon with his head. And Bart Wattsworth, who stood up when racism was rife in this country and defended people and made and exposed what was happening to people in our communities. Those are real heroes. Jewish Voice for Labour that stands up for an oppressed people. Loads and loads of people are on this platform tonight are real heroes. But also the people on the front line in this COVID crisis, the health workers, the care workers, the bin workers, all of those people that work through, the transport workers, the people that made sure that our members, the food workers who have kept this nation fed, that found themselves, 35% of them found themselves not being able to eat so others in their household could eat. 40% said that they found themselves relying on goodwill and charity of family and friends to put food on the table, and 7.5% of our members found themselves using food bank while keeping this nation fed. They are heroes. All of those people are heroes. But I tell you, we're right to be angry too. We're right to be angry at the injustice that we see in our society. But we can't just be angry. We have to go out and we have to argue our case, because the real answer, as I said, the answer to capitalism, to discrimination, to poverty is socialism. And we do it by standing together when we understand our strength. And I'll finish on this. So I know Crispin wants to come back. I'll finish on this because one of my all-time heroes was Nye Bevan. And I often sit on the promenade in Blackpool where he once gave a speech, and he said, when our party realise the tides of history are flowing in our direction, when we realise that solidarity is the answer to the lives and the hardship that people leave, when we understand and realise it, and we stand together and we say to our people, we can win. We will win together under socialism for all. Solidarity.
Now, I have been told that people on Zoom have been struggling with the sound. I keep coming off to try and fix it. I hope it's improved. I believe it may have improved. Yeah, I'm getting a thumbs up. So there's hundreds of people watching on Zoom from all over the country as well. They may have struggled at the beginning to hear, but we've got lots more speakers to come, including our next prize, which is the Legal Challenge of the Year. We haven't had much luck in the courts, have we, recently? No, but we have to keep going, don't we? And the Legal Challenge of the Year goes to Labour Activists for Justice, and Diana Neslin is here to receive the prize.
I was filled with fear. I have to say, it was one of the scariest moments in my life. It was made worse because the letter stipulated I could not discuss the suspension with anybody, and I was under threat of breach of confidentiality. The letter said that I could contact my GP or I could contact Samaritans for help. Now, I've been a Samaritan for 14 years. So it was just like talking to yourself. It was just no good for me. And furthermore, Samaritans can't do anything. All we did, we're just a listening board. We can't give advice. So I had nobody to turn to.
When you get past a certain age and you can add up back to 1956 and reckon that I'm not young, and you become less sensitive to what people think about you. And I haven't had any serious self-doubts about it, but that's helped by being Jewish. And I know a lot of my non-Jewish friends and comrades, including those in my local Labour Party, who are extremely shocked to be accused of anti-Semitism and wondered if they had been without knowing it. And I have to spend time reassuring them that it's rubbish.
How dare they, these people who knew nothing, had experienced nothing about being Jewish. There is a division in the Jewish community between those who have commitment to Israel and won't hear anything, and those who believe that what Israel is doing is wrong, and that we have a responsibility, because we are Jewish, because of what has happened and our experiences, to stand up for what is right.
So I got this notice investigation accusing me of anti-Semitism. I have to say, I was outraged. One of the reasons I was outraged in particular was because I knew that letter had probably come from people in Labour Party HQ, and not even Jewish, accusing me of anti-Semitism.
Privileged to be here tonight. I am so privileged to feel the warmth and the compassion and the empathy and the love, indeed, from everybody in this room. But above all, I want to say something about Crispin. Over this past time, I think he's been an anchor for all of us. Every Sunday, often on Wednesday, we got that lift, that inspiration we needed, and the knowledge that we were not alone, because that's so important. And I get that same feeling tonight, surrounded by friends and comrades. We took the Labour Party to court. We didn't win, but I'm continuing to fight that battle. I'm still the Labour Party hasn't stopped sending me notices of investigation, and I believe I'm being harassed, so I will not let this lie. This case continues. When the accusations about anti-Semitism in the Labour Party first surfaced, it surprised many Jewish left-wing members of the party. We recognise no organisation is absolutely free from the taint of anti-Semitism, but our experiences did not dovetail with the outrage being expressed by mainstream Jewish organisations, Jewish Labour MPs, and amplified by the media. After the notorious Enough is Enough protest, the drumbeat grew louder. Jeremy Corbyn could not give any interview without being faced by hostile questions about anti-Semitism. Good people were hounded out of the party based on accusations of anti-Semitism, which, when they could not stick, they found a portmanteau alternative, namely bringing the party into disrepute. But it was worth a second look at the accusers. The most superficial glance would show their right-wing credentials, and more than that, their commitment to protecting Israel. In fact, one could say most of the accusers were in some ways Zionists, and it's important to remember that Zionism is an ideology not confined to Jews. Actually, many Zionists, like Orban in Hungary or Richard Spencer in the United States, are in fact anti-Semites. But today it is almost impossible to find anyone, any true person on the left who could support the present Israeli state. Over a long period, defenders of Israel have been on the back foot. Rather than mount a defense of Israel's indefensible behavior, they have resorted to attack their adversaries and call them anti-Semites. They have redefined anti-Semitism to mean attacks on Israel, the Jewish state, i.e. the Jew among nations. They call it the new anti-Semitism, and any attack on Israel is an attack on Jews. This is, of course, actually an anti-Semitic trope, because it assumes that all Jews support the present Israeli state. It is now pretty clear that the definition behind the use of anti-Semitism to target left-wing, that this definition was behind the use of anti-Semitism to target left-wing members of the Labour Party. So it was no surprise that, buoyed by their success in getting anti-Semitism as the main talking point with respect to the Labour Party, the pack went for the jugular, insisting that the Labour Party adopt the whole miserable IHRA definition, including its examples. My case is a good example. The Labour Party has on 3 occasions accused me of anti-Semitism. On each occasion, the social media posts were about the Israeli state or about Zionism. It is clear that whoever is responsible for this travesty has been schooled by people with a political axe to grind. Yet if ever anyone had the temerity to say that the anti-Semitism campaign was about Israel, they were themselves accused of anti-Semitism, as was anyone who provided evidence of the limited nature of anti-Semitism in the Labour Party. Starmer boasted to the Labour friends of Israel that he proscribed groups which deny or excuse anti-Semitism, implicitly accepting that it is the new anti-Semitism which is his bugbear. The party now attacks left-wing Jewish members. Clearly, it has lost any sense of the absurdity of telling the world that its commitment to stamping out anti-Semitism is behaving in the time-honoured fashion of true anti-Semites. But the cat is out of the bag. The leadership has made its commitment to Zionism and the new anti-Semitism crystal clear, from fulsomely welcoming Labour defenders of Israel back into the party, to Starmer's extravagant and offensive commitment to Israel in his speech to Labour friends of Israel, and the shameful disposal of the conference resolution on Palestine. Starmer's view of anti-Semitism fits very neatly into the Israel playbook, and his lack of any understanding of true anti-Semitism extends to his inability to understand the replacement theory. Starmer was given a platform on a radio program, and someone from the extreme right started talking about the replacement theory. He, as is usual, had no answer to that. But the replacement theory is a very dangerous theory, and it's been used by a lot on the extreme right, in fact, the neo-fascist right. It is the idea that people who aren't white will come to Europe and replace white people. And behind those people who aren't white is the figure of the Jew. So that is an absolute conspiracy theory, the fundamental idea of anti-Semitism. And in fact, Starmer had no idea, he had no answer to the person. The other point is the Borders and Nationality Bill. That is one of the most despicable bills. And while the Labour Party politely argued against it, no campaign was brought up against it. But people don't realise that anyone who has the right to live in another country can have their citizenship taken away from them. And many Jews, in fact all Jews, have the right to live in Israel. That is one of my complaints about Israel. And so together with most people who hail from Southeast Asia, Caribbean, China, and anywhere else, the people who will be targeted can be Jews. Now, you would think that someone who cares so much about anti-Semitism would have been on platforms here, there, and everywhere, making a statement about it, silent and so on. So, I'm willing, and I've talked a lot, it may be a bit boring, but I'm going to court to say that being an anti-Zionist is a protected belief. This is my belief. I was a Zionist once, and I learned to my horror what was going on, and I've studied Zionism, and I couldn't be a Zionist. But I believe it's a protected belief, and I believe I have a right to hold it, and I believe the Labour Party has no right to attack me for my beliefs. So my fight continues. I'm hoping I will succeed, because if I do, it will have major implications for everybody. But if I lose, so be it. You can, as they say, some people say don't fight. But if I fight, I may lose. But if I don't fight, I certainly will lose. Yeah. And finally, I want to... I want to remind all those cowards and those traitors, the people who have spat on us over these last couple of years. I want to remind them of the words of someone a long time ago in the Spanish Civil War. As Passionara said, better to die on your feet than live on your knees.
Right, now, we seem to be getting signals to Zoom on and off, but hopefully... Can I just say the next prize is for auto exclusion of the year? It's a very, there's a lot of competition for this one. Obviously, Ian Hodgson could have got it, because you also excluded, weren't you, Ian? Yeah. Anyone else also excluded here? Hands up. Quite a few. I think that's a really good award, actually. That's probably my favourite of the night. And you'll be pleased. Graham, you've won another award, Graham, for excluding here. Would you like to come up and speak? And Graham says he's spoken enough.
We're going to need a bigger mantelpiece. We're going to need a bigger mantelpiece.
Yes, we are. And now to break a little bit from the monotony of me presenting awards, we're going to have some comedy. If you want for some stand-up comedy. In the past, since lockdown, we've had on Not the Andrew Marr Show and on Labour Grassroots, we've had Don Biswas coming onto the Zoom every time and entertaining us with his lockdown updates. But he's also been doing very well recently in the stand-up scene. He was on Radio 4 with his own programme. That went out, didn't it, Don? Last week. So he's going to be the next thing. Don't tell anyone that he did this gig, okay? So can we have a round of applause for Don Biswas?
Hello, comrades. How the fuck are you doing? We've got a call from Brisbane for organising. Before I go on to politics, I should explain myself. I've got a learning difficulty called dyspraxia, which among other things affects my organisation. Therefore, I have a tendency to lose things all the time. Also true about me, as a member of the Asian community, I'm twice as likely to get stopped and searched by the police. But relax, I can turn these two negatives into two positives. Because next time I get frisked by a police officer, obviously number one, they'll find out I'm not a terrorist. And number two, I'll find out where I left my keys. Everyone was talking about the pandemic. I was prepared the most because I live with my overbearing Indian mother. So I've been in lockdown for 38 fucking years. Give us a cheer if you think Boris Johnson's done a bad job with the pandemic. I think he's done an absolutely terrible job. So much so, some people reckon this time next year, unfortunately, our Chancellor, Rishi Sunak, might become the first British Indian Prime Minister. Or as his parents call it, still not a doctor. So what I do is I'm a political stand-up comic. I run my own political comedy night, and at the moment, I'm looking for a Boris Johnson tribute act. Unfortunately, Keir Starmer was unavailable. Here's a fact. Did you know, in last December, a maximum of 6 people or less were allowed to gather together in indoor settings? And that's why no one reported the Liberal Democrats' Christmas party. I'll tell you why things are fucked up, because we have a two-tier system at the moment. On the one end, we have socialism for the rich. This government will do anything to help his rich friends. For example, not clamp down on tax avoidance. That's why one reason why I stopped using Netflix is because I don't fully pay the taxes. Another reason why I stopped using Netflix is because it's come to the end of my 30-day free subscription. On the other end, the reason why we have so many COVID deaths is because we have capitalism for the poor. We're not helping our poor people, defunding the NHS. You know, in some cases, privatising them. As a result, under the Tories, the infrastructure is so shit that if the late, great train robber Ronnie Bitch was alive today, he would end up robbing a rail replacement bus service. I want to talk about a political issue close to my heart, the current refugee crisis that's going on, because I get it, I really do. Because during the 1970s, my dad moved to England to flee persecution from India. Unfortunately, my mum managed to track him down. I love doing these gigs because I've been doing comedy for 14 years now, and nobody knows who I am. It's true, mainly because I support the Labour Party. But it's great because it allows me to gig on the London Open Mic circuit, it allows me to explain every type of gigs where you get 30 comics on a bill, and if you're lucky, one audience member. So it's less of a gig and more of a hostage situation. The reason why I do these shows allows me to talk about political issues that no one else does. Give us a cheer, and this is something the late Michael Meacher talked about if you heard of the Bilderberg Group. If you don't know what they are, the Bilderberg Group is a group of 120 of the top capitalist scumfucks, the politicians, the bankers, the media types and bankers, as I said, who meet every year in secret, in their own words, to have off-the-record discussions about foreign and economic policy. Now, to me, the meeting in secret part smacks of a lack of democracy. And past members include Bush, Blair, Obama, Ed Balls, George Osborne. Now, if I was to see Tony Blair walking down the street, firstly I'll walk up to him with my weird dyspraxic walk. Which you couldn't tell out when I was younger, because I was a child in the mid-90s. So everyone thought I was fucking mad flip. Firstly, I'll confront the fucker Tony Blair and say, confront him about the Bilderberg Group, that's what I do, I'll confront him about the Bilderberg Group. And secondly, at one point, I'll be Tony, mate. If you want to meet people in secret, why not come to my next London Open Mic night? Let's get to the crux of the issue. Let's talk about anti-Zionism. The reason why Jeremy Corbyn was in trouble was because anti-Zionism was weaponised against him, because ultimately we don't want a socialist leader who will stand up for the rights of Palestinians and have an equal society for everyone. It's fucking true, isn't it? It's fucking true. That's why people get mixed up with anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism. Zionism is a determination for the Jewish people to have their own homeland, Israel, but not at the expense of expelling Palestinians. I don't believe in a religious form of nationalism, like my parents' homeland of India, where they had to flee their village because of religious reasons. Because everyone in that village was Sikh, and they were hairdressers. I'm also anti-austerity, it doesn't work. Did you know the latest bailout deal imposed onto Greece by the European Union means more austerity for the Greek people, even though in the past it's reduced our economy by 25%. But wasn't it Einstein who said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing again and again and expecting different results? No one's laughing. But wasn't it Einstein who said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing again and again and expecting different results? I genuinely forgot my next joke. Sorry, Brisbane. Oh, here it is, I can't remember. Sorry about this. So unprofessional. Here we go. Wasn't the definition of insanity doing the same thing again and again? Austerity has affected me. Because of police cutbacks as a brown guy living in South London, I now have to stop and search myself. No. Some people say, Don, you have to be clever to talk about politics. No, you're not. I'm not the cleverest person in the world. I've got more time to think than an average person. For example, when I was younger, I failed 5 times to get into 5 different grammar schools. And as a result, I lost my job as a locksmith. I don't care which way you voted, but in Brexit, the big issue that was before the pandemic, but Brexit was all about the anti-immigration sentiment. Yeah. And now the negotiations are finished, single Brexiters now can find romance on a new dating website called No More Fish. Because even if you get this, immigrants come over here stealing our jobs. Absolutely bullshit. In fact, there's jobs that need filling out there. obviously with a proper wage. Now, I don't care what nationality you are, surely the government should step in and make sure all corporations pay us a fucking fair wage. This is a point where I'm supposed to make the joke funny, but after hearing this rant, my Polish joke writer, who writes all my material, is asking for an increase in wages. I thought I'd get a bigger reaction. I'm going to sack him now and replace him with a much cheaper Bulgarian joke writer. Having this scrapped here is great because it means I've been sacked from every job I had. It's absolutely brilliant. It means I've sacked from every job I've had. It's given me more time to think than the average person. Because let me tell you, friends, we don't get enough time to think. For example, for the first 12 to 18 years of your life, you're indoctrinated education. You just repeat what other people tell you. And then for the next 50 years, you're working 50 hours a week in a job you really hate, just so you can buy some pokey little flat in the city. And you've got no time to philosophise about your own existence, because you're distracted by Love Island, or Britain's Got Talent, or the Great British Bake Off. And that's why you readily accept opinions the Sun newspaper, or the Daily Mail tell you. You don't have anything else to think because you're too busy looking after your kids. And all for what? Just so you can get a mediocre pension. And then you die. Unfortunately, it's a lot worse for my Hindu parents because of reincarnation. They have to repeat the process again. I should explain my weird state present. Generally a true story. Several years ago, diagnosed with a mild form of Asperger's syndrome. If you don't know what it is, it's a form of autism where you have problems communicating with people. Basically, you can't read someone else's body language. Now, I don't think I've got this Asperger's syndrome. I wouldn't be here today looking people in the eye trying to tell jokes. And anyway, one of the symptoms of Asperger's, the doctor said I had, no word of a lie, was having one-sided conversations with other people. You've guessed it, that's not Asperger's syndrome. What the doctors has described there as a stand-up comedian. I'm starting to think what happened several years ago when I got tested. My results got mixed up with someone who is genuinely autistic. And now what's happened? I tell you what's happened. There's some kind of Rain Man-like figure out there on the circuit who's been told by a doctor he's a fucking comedian. I haven't got Asperger's. My actual diagnosis was mild traits of Asperger's. So I'm not Rain Man, I'm more Drizzle Boy. I'll leave with a couple more things. Here's the weird thing. Having a learning difficulty means I suffer from depression. Did you know Britain is the 6th richest economy in the world? And yet we don't invest enough in talking therapies. Currently there's a huge waiting list for free counselling on the National Health Service. On the side though, I'm not even a comedian, I'm not. I'm just a depressed person who's realised it's quicker to talk to someone by becoming a stand-up. I see myself as sort of an anti-establishment comedian. Spoiler alert, I'm not, but some of my heroes include Bill Hicks and Lenny Bruce, the latter who got arrested for the words he said. But how can I be an anti-establishment comedian when I still live with my mum? How can I say, fuck the system, when I'm 38 and I still have a bedtime? Smiling, get to stay out late tonight. I've got 2 more bits. I am not an anti-establishment comedian. What I am is an outsider. Most of my friends are on the spectrum, or most of my friends in the Labour Party were expelled. And most of my friends in the spectrum, do you know what happened to them? They had the benefits cruelly taken away from this government. And do you know what I did during that time? I did a corporate gig for the Department of Work and Pensions. Don't judge me. The people who administer universal credit. But I turned up 6 weeks late, just to say, no fucking way. I want to live in a world where we have actual genuine socialism, where Jeremy Corbyn actually gets elected. I want to live in a world where we don't have paedophile MPs in power who take cocaine and drugs. I want to live in a world where we don't go to legal wars for God knows what reason, and we get the absolute transparent information in COVID, and we have the poorest in society. By the way, all has been said before, I think this. All has been said before. It's been said before. It's been said before. I'm just saying it again, and hoping this time people will listen and do something fucking about it. After all, wasn't it Einstein who said the definition of insanity. I've been Don Bishop. Thanks very much. Cheers.
I've been informed that this microphone is really good for Zoom, so I'm going to keep on this microphone. And we have our second Councillor of the Year award. Who's a councillor here? Put your hands up. It's Joe Bird! Joe Bird!
Because of fascism and the far right at the time and ethnic cleansing, and they found safe haven in England. Some people say anti-Semitism is really widespread in the Labour Party, and that's not an experience that I have. What's damaging is when there's accusations and witch huntery and people making allegations without evidence, and what we need to address that is a process of natural justice and due process. I was talking about this and I made a play on words. I said we need what I call a due process, a process based on fundamental human rights, for example. And when I was suspended, thousands of people in the Labour Party and outside the Labour Party rose up and said it was ridiculous for me as a Jewish person to be suspended for making a self-deprecating play on words. People raising families on universal credit or working 2 jobs, frontline hard-working, frontline carers, refugees, the people at our borders and always in our hearts, who are fleeing war, enduring conflict, deportation and death. I dedicate it to the organised workers who are in dispute, to the protesters in progressive social movements, young and old, and to the millions that voted for hope for the many, not the few, in our last 2 general elections. And like so many people, I'm devastated at what the Labour Party has become. Racist, divisive, elitist, with a leader who writes in the Sun newspaper and votes with the Tories. We deserve much better than that. At the last local election, I was honoured to be re-elected as a local councillor with an increase of 13% of the vote. The residents have done me proud, full of extraordinary So things can and they will get better. We have to keep working together. If you can, do stand for election. It's no better platform to promote the policies of socialism, to do what's right by your neck of the woods, to build a team around you. Like Sharon Graham, the new General Secretary of Unite, said, nobody else is going to come and save us, no Westminster politician is going to do this for us. It's our job as socialists to stand for election, to campaign for socialism, to win hearts, minds and votes. Thank you everybody.
Go Bird! Now, we have one of our speakers could not make it tonight because of pressure from their family, reasonably, to not come to the situation of COVID. However, he has agreed to speak on the phone. I've done this before. I'm a professional phone user. I'm just going to call him up and see what happens. It's fun, isn't it?
Hi, Crispin.
Hi Ken, you're live at the Conway Hall.
Apologise for not being with you in person. I'm under house arrest from an overprotective family. They seem to think senior pensioners might be in some risk, so I'm incarcerated here. But apologies for not being there. I feel I should be there, but great to hear you all. And I thought it would be worth saying, just reminding us just what we achieved. Labour, under Jeremy Corbyn's leadership, became the largest party in Europe. Over 600. Again, you wouldn't know that from the news you hear these days, but we were so near to taking power. And we had a transformative programme. Just remember what it was. It was the NHS return to its basic principles. It was trade union rights for everyone. It was common ownership for the rail, the utilities, for the energy companies, so that we really begin to tackle climate change. It was a massive council house building. It was to end the punitive sanctions that brought so many to hunger and dire poverty. It was to end the scandal of hunger being used as a weapon. And it was to reassert human rights in our foreign policies, to reassert the rule of international law, and to recognise and establish a Palestinian state. Yeah. And of course that's what got us everyone into trouble. And it's brilliant to hear tonight all our comrades standing firm against the false and exaggerated claims of anti-Semitism. But just think what we achieved, and we're so close to achieving so much more. But it was too much for the ruling class, wasn't it? And with that near miss in 2017, they're determined to destroy Jeremy Corbyn's leadership and Jeremy himself, if they could. And what was so predictable in retrospect was that the assassin was the Labour right wing. It was the Labour Parliamentary Party. Yeah. And it was clear that the claims of anti-Semitism had no basis, or very little basis, and what basis there was grossly exaggerated. But what does become clear is that the enemy to progress, the biggest enemy to progress, is the Labour right wing itself. They've never had anything lasting to offer working class people. What gains they have made have been transitory, but they've left them at the mercy of the chaos of the market. And they've refused to repeal the anti-union laws, and so on and so on and so on. Now, I don't know if you saw the piece in the Standard on Monday, written by Philip Collins, one of Blair's speechwriters, I gather, now a frequent visitor to Newsnight and the BBC's news programmes. And he said that Labour now looks like a serious proposition. But he wouldn't say that. What he means is, it's safe for those those with privileges and power to I think what has struck me in recent years, or in recent times since Dharma took over, is both his dishonesty and his treachery. Dishonesty in that he promised unity. Treachery, personal treachery, in putting his arms around Jeremy Corbyn in the 2019 election campaign, knowing that he would destroy him as soon as he got the chance. What a man to be leading the Labour movement. What a dishonourable man that we've ended up with, and clearly he has he's a useful thing for them. But we have to continue the fight, because this is the programme of 2017 and in part in 2019 is the basis, the only basis on which we can get out of the chaos and the present chaos that we're in and begin to end the inequality, the poverty and the disaster to which the world is heading. So we have to continue the fight. And the immediate task, I think, is to build a broad left movement based initially on those manifestos, but obviously to develop from that. And it must extend from Labour Against the Witch Hunt and Labour in Exile Network and those who have created a new movement from that and all the way to those still in the Labour Party, the left unions, the grassroots organisations, the charities, the political activists, many in the hall and throughout the country. We are still many, and they only now still represent the interests of the few. There's a great political vacuum, and if we don't fill it soon with a movement that has a political presence, then that opportunity I'm afraid will disappear. So it's an urgent task. We've got to keep fighting. We've got to stay strong. We've got to make 2022 the year the left united, finally united, and finally got itself organised. Solidarity, friends, comrades, and thanks to everyone who's organised this. Thanks to Crispin, thanks to Tina, thanks to all who've worked for this evening, and the calendar. I'm glad you didn't follow the trend of some of the more recent calendars of the involved in the full Monty, but thank God for that. Solidarity with everyone. I wish I were there, and see you soon. Thank you.
Now we're running a bit late, as you might have guessed, but we're going to carry on. But someone heckling? No, good. Right, okay. Well, our next speaker, our next prize, is for Heckler of the Year. Heckler of the Year. Now, does anyone here? A bit late. Too late. Does anyone here know of anyone who heckled? No! Because we've got a real heckler here tonight, and she does like to talk as well, as we know. The winner of Heckler of the Year is Carol Vincent.
So, you see,
when I saw Doreen, I wanted to make sure that she knew that there were people in that audience who knew that she had fought for her family, tooth and nail, for her son's memory. Definition of heckling, you know, it's rude and abusive and insulting. And I don't think I really ever heckled anyone. I make points, and the points I make are truthful points, and they are points about things that are, requiring people to say something.
So unexpected. But to be honest, I mean, I saw this and I thought, reserved, I've never been reserved in my life. But anyway, yeah, I'll waffle on if I'm not careful. So I decided to write down what I needed to say. So, good evening, comrades. I'm in a ward. Anyway, my dad was an electrician from the East End of London. He worked hard. He was in a union, and he taught me the work ethic. My mum was a seamstress from Tottenham, and she taught me about caring. She struggled, but she always thought of others. They helped me become the person I am today, caring and hard-working. Does that remind you of anything? Anyway, those receiving awards are smeared, suspended, expelled and terminated. I'm an exception to the rule tonight. Everyone who spoke before me fit the bill, that's true. But now I reckon by being in such good company, I would have broken one or other rule. I've worked in social services and the NHS, then on to archaeology. But what I love the best is helping those in need and those without a voice to get what they have a right to and deserve. They're the ones Bod's job doesn't give a choice. They rarely make a noise. Some thought steer karma would be different, muster some unity within the party. But heavens above, we miss the clues. He's really playing for the blues. That's why I won't challenge them or their vile views. What would this team at Highbury think? Would the Reds change their colour and become Chelsea blue? No, I'm sure that's not the case. I reckon they'd say, under his leadership, the Labour Party are expelling great activists and campaigners, and the wrong sort of Jews, and dissenters too. Thank you, Crispin. Thanks for everyone at Conway Hall and everyone who's organised this. Thanks for the award and for voting for me. I mean, seriously, I'm in company that is great and greater than me. And there are everyone that's here and everyone that's on the Zoom calls every Sunday and the Wednesdays last year and the year before. You know, these people are all heroes. They're all doing their bit in their community. So thanks to Tina and Crispin and the organisers and everyone who's helped to build tonight, and the cameraman. And the people out here that are there's many people who need to be remembered tonight, but I'd like to remember a few. So, Reva Joff, Mike Carroll, and someone you may not know, because I didn't know him very well. But yesterday, Alan Tuffin from Wanstead Park, an amazing socialist who did so much, and he sat with his Black Lives Matter placard on the wall in Wanstead last year, and sadly passed away. And that was yesterday. And obviously the great Sydney Silverman. You know, I watched the programme the other night, it was very late, but it was about his wanting to get rid of the death penalty and his early day motion and stuff, and all his work. And I just think there are so many great people that have gone before us, and we're losing more and more, and we need to actually stand strong, stand tall, stand shoulder to shoulder. And I think these people never make the news, but we know who they are, and we are among those giants who have gone before us and are sitting here now, and who will come after us. Solidarity, comrades. Oh, and the yet means I'll probably be expelled in the morning, so I'll definitely be in the morning.
No, you can't say one more thing. It's not a Zoom. It's not a Zoom.
Tomorrow, 12:45, the Edmonton incinerator protest.
You deserve your
yes.
You deserve it now.
So yes, we need to be there. As many as possible.
Okay,
They are looting our homes and killing the poorest people.
Now, our next prize is the most coveted prize of the lot. It's suspension of the year. We've had, there's lots of, I'm obviously hoping that it might be me that's on this envelope as a late addition. But let's have a look, shall we? Oh, it's not me. It's the winner of suspension of the year is River Joffe, and to collect the award is Stefan. River Stefan.
Going to South Africa to Jewish parents who had fled what is today probably Lithuania in Tsarist Russia to escape the pogroms against Jews. They fled to South Africa, as did many Jews, including my own father's family. So Riva has been an anti-racist campaigner from sort of her early teens, and has rubbed shoulders with some of the greatest anti-racist liberation fighters the world has ever known. Well, she would not tolerate any racism or discrimination of any sort under Keir Starmer's leadership, and remembering that Keir Starmer is our constituency MP, progressive Jews or anti-racist Jews have actually become a target of the Labour Party. And just a few weeks before Riva died, she received a letter of suspension from the Labour Party, alleging that she was anti-Semitic. Now, you know, for someone as proudly Jewish as Riva, to call her anti-Semitic is just completely and utterly absurd. And it attempts this very reactionary political maneuver, which is to claim that any criticism of Israel is anti-Semitism, which of course is an absolute nonsense.
Thank you, friends, comrades. Firstly, I know everyone's done this, but I really want to make a point that Crispin has been an absolute beacon of light and shining light in these past months. In fact, the very week that Mum died, Crispin, you've just seen, in fact, my speech has been completely thrown out the window because I was going to plagiarise everything that Andrew said in his speech about Mum on Crispin's show the week after she died. So I have to start all over again, ad-lib. So Leah will be used to that after the funeral, where I promised to write a speech but didn't actually manage to. but we pulled it off in the end. What would Reva say? Reva would say, like many of you, I'm no hero. She definitely did not consider herself a hero in any way. There are many of you in this room, and as I'm discovering, many of us around the world, with far more heroic kind of attributes, I guess. For her, as Andrew said, this goes back to her childhood and before, you know, as Mum talks a lot about being a political exile, about being the daughter of political exiles. And whilst there was the backdrop of the Labour Party doing what they did in August to her, there was a real positive. She'd finally, after years and years of being hounded and harassed by many of us in the family and beyond, she finally wrote what she told her memoirs, but it's actually the story of my grandparents, of Sora and Max, and their parents. These are people who really experienced anti-Semitism, genuinely. Not this pseudo made-up nonsense that we all obviously talked a lot about, and there are much greater minds that can talk about it in great length than me. I want to say one thing on that subject though. About 2 years ago, Mum posted an article written by Roland Ratz that chimed such a chord with me, I was like, I could have written that. I wish I had written that. And in that article, he talked about the only experiences of anti-Semitism he'd had in the party, they're absolutely akin to mine. The only experiences were basically being told that you're not the right type of Jew, and even worse than that, the real chutzpah of it for me is being told that by non-Jews. That article had a really profound effect on me. Mum, if she was a hero to anyone, she was a hero to me. Over the last 2 or 3 years, the number of times that I turned to her and said, seriously? What is this next piece of Kafka nonsense we're dealing with? And she was so calm and resolute. She just said, just relax, ride the storm. We all know it's bullshit. And in recent times, probably in the spring and summer, I remember saying to her, why do you stay? Why do I stay, Mum? Why am I still in the party? Well, probably because they haven't suspended or expelled me yet. I guess that's coming soon, Crispin. And she used to say this very simply. She said, what I've put up with, what many of our friends and comrades have put up with, is nothing, absolutely nothing, compared to the abuse and the levels of smearing that Jeremy Corbyn has had to tolerate. As he said, if he can stick it out and still believes that there is good and that we can come through this, bear in mind she was a member right through the Blair years, we got through that. If it's good enough for him to stay, then it's good enough for me. And that always kept me in the dark hours the last couple of years when I had moments of going, I'm going to tear it. No, she stays, if he stays, all of you stay. Well, those of you that haven't been expelled or suspended, if you're staying, then absolutely, so am I. The fight is not done. I kind of want to finish, many of you probably have seen or read Mum's fantastic response to her investigation. I just want to read one paragraph from that. I am one of many being accused of something or other by the new management, aka House Committee, for some purpose or other that makes sense only to yourselves. What is it about those of us you are processing? Can it really be our views about Palestine that terrify you? Yes, we oppose most strongly Israel's government's oppression of the Palestinians, but then we campaign for justice for all minoritized people. We also want urgent action on climate change. We oppose the arms trade and the consequent foreign wars. We are working for a safer, a greener and more peaceful world. We are probably on the right side of history. When she wrote that, I did say to her, take the probably out, Mum. But she was always so humble. Again, she really wouldn't see herself as a hero. She finished that paragraph saying, honestly, and she was a therapist for 30 years, honestly, a therapist would say, this frenzy of purging you were driven to is not the behaviour of mature adults, it smacks of desperation, fear and panic. Is it really us, a quite reasonable group of democratic socialist citizens, that cause you such deep-seated and even pathological insecurity? We're still waiting for an answer to this letter, by the way. And she then went on to say, oh, I will not dignify you with a response to your suggestion that because I refer to the Zionist lobby that I am anti-Semitic. Having seen the video and the comments from Andrew Feinstein, I won't read the last paragraph of this, which basically is pretty much detailing exactly what Andrew was talking about in that video. I just want to thank all of you and Crispin for giving me this opportunity. It's been a very difficult 2 or 3 months. For me, this fight has only just begun. I still have some grieving to do, but when I process some of that, I'm coming back fresh in the new year, and I'm ready to fight with all of you, comrades and friends. As Jeremy himself said when he wrote to me personally for Mum's Memorial, sadly he couldn't be there as he actually had to be in Parliament making a speech that evening. As he said, I will always be grateful for the support Raver gave me, to me and the party. This wonderful woman has friends and admirers all around the world, and I wish to declare a heartfelt recognition of the fantastic role she played in bringing about the end of the hated and hateful regime of apartheid in South Africa. Although Raver ended her days in London, her heroism, funny that, was well known on an international scale and will never be forgotten. In solidarity, Honourable Jeremy Corbyn MP. If it was in the memoirs, everyone would know that I'd be going, oh, I've just got one more thing to say. But thank you all. It's been a real privilege and an honour to be here.
Right, I'm going to crack on. The next award is for Poet of the Year. Are there any poets here tonight? Yeah, Kelly. And the winner is Kevin Higgins.
First of all, I'd like to say how genuinely happy I am to be awarded Labour Heroes Poet of the Year. It's the best award I've ever had, and it will go on it will have a proud place on our mantelpiece. And dedicate the reading to the genuine Labour heroes, Pamela Fitzpatrick, Leah Levine, Jackie Walker, Ken Loach, and all of the others. And as I've said before, these are the names that will be remembered, not the names of the expellers and the people who wrote the complaints and sent out the little emails saying you're excluded and all that. Those people, history always tries to forget. Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk and co, who were blasting off into outer space, to billionaires, nearly trillionaires, trying to escape the Earth, having ruined it. What would we do with these people after we had gotten rid of their system? And here's a suggestion: the unnecessary people. When this world and the money with which you bought it have been abolished, and all the broken things fixed, and people like me are in total control, you'll be allowed to come and go from your gated community of the unnecessary, so you can see how great the world is without you. We'll even employ a retired supermodel to bring you your tea, and when the time comes, change your nappy, and buy you a board game which lets you pretend to again buy the world with money that was once real and absolutely does smell, and give you a calculator so you can work out what the corporate tax rate was in places that no longer go by that name, and lean on your bedside locker a notepad in which you can draw pictures of the spaceship on which you'll make your final escape. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a great night. I wish I was there with you, comrades. Solidarity.
Well, Kevin Higgins, who couldn't be here tonight because he's still in Ireland, he can't get a passport to get over here. Now our next award is a special award. We're coming to the, just so you know, we are coming to the end. Oh, that's good. Well, we've gone over the, you know, oh yeah, we have gone over it. But you know what it's like. Our next award is a Lifetime Achievement Award for being smeared, suspended or expelled for a long time and for facing abuse, continual abuse for a long time. And that award goes, our first Lifetime Achievement Award goes to Chris Williamson.
He threatened the status quo, and there was a concerted attempt, as we're all well aware, to undermine him and to use every dirty trick in the book to destabilise his leadership and to ultimately topple Jeremy Corbyn. And we allowed comrades to be literally thrown under the bus one by one. I've described them as Jeremy Corbyn's Praetorian Guard, with being systematically destroyed. And that was literally the only MP that was prepared to stand up to the witch hunt, to defend comrades who'd been falsely accused. The fact that I'd stood by Jackie Walker and Ken Livingston and Mark Wattsworth was then used against me.
The freedom of speech, democracy and social justice are under extreme attack in this country and around the world. And that's why solidarity is so crucially important.
Powerful and moving speeches this evening, so if you please, I'm not going to make a long speech now. But I'm just reminded of the words of Tony Benn when he was running for the deputy leadership in 1981, and he was being subjected to incredible abuse.
And he said, you know, I don't care what they call me. They can call me a flat earther, they can call me a Marxist, a Trotskyist, a vegetarian. I don't care what they call me. He said the reason that they call us names is that they dare not face our arguments. And I've never been a sure word spoken. And so, you know, some say that principles without power are pointless. But I say that power without principles, as we've seen, is utterly venal. And we have to stand together. We have to continue to fight. And again, if I can quote Tony Benn, he said that, you know, there are two flames that burn in the human heart. The flame of anger against injustice and the flame of hope that we can build a better world. So let's make sure that we redouble our efforts to build that better world, comrades. Thank you.
We have another Lifetime Achievement Award for someone else who has been facing continual smears and attacks for many years. God knows how people put up with this stuff. And our next Lifetime Achievement Award goes to Jackie Walker.
Is that we have actually suggested that there is a witch hunt against the left. The irony is, if you suggest there's a witch hunt against the left, then you're guilty, apparently, of being anti-Semitic or abusive or something. Yes, it's quite a laugh.
I mean, stay in the party, speak out, speak loud, and make them throw you out, for goodness sake. Where's the sense of just leaving everything easy for them? You know, look at the number of us who stayed there, not for 6 months or a year, but for 2 years and more, many people, and just fought and fought and fought. Because what it does is it gives a voice to others, and it enables you to say things that other people are not able to say. Because actually, what we need to be on the left, on the radical left, is we need to be the opposition. Labour, in terms of the leadership of Keir Harding, can no longer be the real opposition, and we see that in the way he's responding at the moment to the virus and actually to everything. He is not a real opposition. We are the opposition, and we need to act as if we're the opposition.
instead of Jackie. But I'm very honoured she's asked me to speak on her behalf. It's hard to come be here tonight. She's been an absolute huge inspiration, I know, to many, and she's certainly been a huge inspiration to me, and she's become a very, very good friend of mine over the last 5 years. As it shows in the film, Jackie was actually handpicked by John Landsman to become National Vice Chair of Momentum. No election or anything like that. No, that's not how John Landsman rules. But as soon as the anti-Semitism smear started flying and Jackie started to get vilified, he dumped her. He threw her to the wolves, and unfortunately he wasn't the only one. If you Google Jackie Walker and anti-Semitism, you get over 13,000 hits. Whoa. Okay, Ken Livingston gets 83,000 hits, but he was the bloody mayor of London, so that's one reason. But Jackie was certainly one of the first, if not the first, victim of the of this campaign that conflates anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism. But unlike many others who, and that is totally understandable, if you get accused of something like that, you go into hiding. I think that's actually what most people, a natural thing to do. She did not. She decided to fight back and help to set up Labour Against the Witch Hunt in 2017, acting as a co-chair with me as the other co-chair, until a couple of months ago when most of our steering committee resigned. For 6 solid years, that woman has fought and fought again, despite the increasing viciousness of the attacks, which were often of a very racist nature. If you haven't read her autobiography, Pilgrim State, I really urge you to read it. It's beautifully written, but it also really details the daily racism she has experienced from an early age. But this also, of course, this fight had made her into the formidable fighter she is today. And she has a very unique way of fighting. Yes, she gets angry like all of us, but you remember how she dealt with her expulsion hearing. She invited us to a big party outside of it. So while the little bureaucrats, ran away through the back door, we were outside dancing with her brother, with her family, with her comrades. We were outside celebrating, singing and dancing, and that was fantastic. It's not all just a big party for comrades like Jackie, and I think we have to say at this stage it's come at a huge personal cost to her, physically, mentally, on all sorts of levels. To accuse a lifelong anti-racist, who's experienced racism herself, to be called a racist by the media, by the establishment, and by her so-called comrades, it was devastating for her. It still is devastating for her, and we can't underestimate that. But one of which I think we're very proud to represent her today. She's a fantastic comrade, and she's intelligent, she's clever, she brings new thoughts to a situation on the steering committee, but she's also very joyful and very charismatic. And the phrase, we want bread, but we certainly want roses and dancing too, could have been written by Jackie. So thank you, Jackie. Here's to you.
Our third Lifetime Achievement Award, again, I'm afraid he's not able to attend, but fortunately I was able to visit him at his home earlier today with Liam, who's filming over there. And the third award goes to Ken Livingston.
I've not just been accused of being anti-Semitic. I've been accused of being corrupt, alcoholic, violent, tax dodging. On the day I became the leader of the GLC back in 1981, Thatcher made a speech to the Scottish Conservatives, saying that my plan was to impose on Britain a communist tyranny like those of Eastern Europe. Now, the idea of cutting affairs was going to actually trigger a communist revolution was bonkers. The Daily Mail brought its war correspondent back back in the Middle East and told him he had to file 6 stories a day. I've never seen a reporter under so much bloody pressure. And then Tory Central Office was briefing the press that I'd been at a gay party in the East End of London where I'd been sodomised by 6 men. And you've got to bear in mind, back in 1981, that wasn't the vote winner it would be today.
Please take this award for us, Ken Livingston.
Thank you very much. That's lovely.
So Ken, do you have a message for people who are watching Conway Hall and also watching on Zoom?
Well, again, I just say I'm sorry I can't be there. It'd be nice to meet up with all these old lefties, but I'm 76 and if I get the virus, I've got 1 in 12 chance of dying. I don't like kids having to bury me before Christmas, but I would love to be there. Look forward to meeting up with you, in the months to come when we're over all of this. But literally, this has been the worst health crisis really since 1918 and the Spanish swine flu. But fortunately, it's not as lethal as that virus was.
That's a cheerful message. So our final Lifetime Achievement Award, I'm very pleased that he's been able to come out today, and he's here, is he? I hope he's here. Yes, he's here. Our final Lifetime Achievement Award goes to Mark Wattsworth.
Was elected a BMP councillor in the early 1990s. If they can expel someone like me, then no one's safe.
There's been a concerted campaign by disgruntled elements within the Parliamentary Labour Party that will simply not accept Jeremy Corbyn as their leader, despite him being elected on 2 occasions by more than 60% of the membership of this party, and they represent less than 1% of the party.
We don't win this bitter battle for the soul of the Labour Party to keep it socialist, anti-war, anti-racist, anti-black racism, anti-Islamophobia by appeasement or capitulation.
Being serious. And sometimes you do feel you like in a comedy, don't you? You know, Biswas, he was spot on with some of his humour. It's a Whitehall farce. Keir Starmer, and that Freudian slip of Jackie Walker, my comrade and friend. Keir Hardie, it's not Keir Hardie. I think he's been sent in by the ruling class as an undertaker to bury the Labour Party. And we're going to stop him. This is a momentous year because it marks the 40th anniversary of the Brixton Uprising and the New Cross fire massacre. 13 dead, 13 young black people celebrating a birthday party bombed by racist Nazi thugs that to this day have never been brought to justice. 13 dead, nothing said. That was the slogan. You remember? And then that momentous Black People's Day of Action, when tens of thousands of black people, mainly youth, from all over Britain, marched from New Cross, actually to Fleet Street across Blackfriars Bridge, because we knew who the enemy were, not just the establishment. And I've been a journalist for more than 40 years, but they're lapdogs, the yellow press in Fleet Street, who do their bidding for them. And I stand here today, the son of a Finnish au pair who came to this country in the 1950s, working actually for the family of a Jewish dentist, I've never told this story before, in Birmingham, Mr. Fink, and a Jamaican father who came to this country as a teenager to fight in the Royal Air Force in the Second World War to keep this country free from Nazi Germany and Hitler and his gang. What can I do but fight? I've fought all my life for justice, for equality, for black rights, for everybody's rights, as a member of the LGBT community, as someone who spent time on a travellers' camp in a caravan in Hersham. Some of you are old enough to have heard of Sham 69. I knew Jimmy Percy very well. Went to go. It was fun. But it's serious, isn't it, what we're up against? And I wanted to sound a note of hope tonight, because I think the fight back has begun, but outside the Labour Party. Extinction Rebellion, Black Lives Matter, Kill the Bill, the amazing women who have mobilised as a result of the vicious murder by a serving police officer of Sarah Everard. And I was on that demonstration, well, it was a vigil actually, on Clapham Common, and got assaulted by a sergeant, and that's the subject of legal action that I'm taking through Bindman solicitors at the moment. And I was proud to be there. So there is hope. There's a real insurrection. I think we'll win back the Labour Party from outside through strikes, through supporting industrial action, the sort of stuff that my good friend and comrade Ian Hodgson has taught me about with the McStrike. I was there, wasn't I, Ian? Comrade, on the Watford demonstration. What was that, 2-3 years ago? 2017, 4 years ago. How time flies. And we need to be on the front line, and it's great that in my union, Unite, a fighter, Sharon Graham, Sister Sharon Graham, has been elected General Secretary. I'm not a hero. In a lot of ways, I'm an anti-hero. I don't believe in elites. I've fought against them all my life, and one of the biggest heroes in this hall tonight for me is Carol Vincent, taking on Keir Starmer. Very brave. And she's not a heckler. She intervened on behalf of the class. And she held him to account. And they hadn't dared move against Carol Vincent. So let's take hope. Let's believe that there can be a better world through struggle, through the activities of the young people, through action. And I want to thank Joe Bird, who has been on more Justice for Mark platforms than any other comrade, and we did 24 towns and cities around this country. And she showed me what solidarity looks like, as did Chris Williamson, who came to my hearing, along with David Rosenberg, who actually asked the witch hunters, what's your definition of anti-Semitism? And do you know what happened? They had a phalanx of lawyers there, the Labour Party, paid for by your membership subscriptions, hundreds of thousands of pounds. They had to call an adjournment to ask themselves what the Labour Party's definition of anti-Semitism is, because they didn't have one. Don't forget this was before IHRA. So I was kicked out not on the grounds of anti-Semitism, but bringing the party into disrepute. You know that catch-all McCarthyite term. And there's no right of appeal.
Shocking. Indeed.
No right of appeal. And I'd served, what, 2 years of suspension, having pulled up that CIAS asset, Ruth Smith, as Chelsea Manning named her at the Chakrabarti report launch. No right of appeal. It's absolutely scandalous. I'd served 2 years suspension, and then I was given 5 years expulsion. So that's 7 years. Even if you go through the criminal justice system, they take 2 years off your tariff, don't they? So I should be off the rat by now, but I have to serve until 2023. And then even then, you have to go to the NEC, cap in hand, and ask to be let back in, and they can still say, well, we don't actually want someone like you in the party. And you know that they're not going to let me back in. And do I want to be in the current Labour Party? I think you were quite right, Joe, when you said, do I want to be in a party that is going along with the police bill effectively? I mean, I was talking to somebody from Liberty just yesterday, a comrade who's leading the fight on this pernicious police bill that will clamp down on protest because of Black Lives Matter, because of extinction resistance. And she said, we lost a vote by 1 vote in the Lords yesterday because the Labour Party refused to whip its Labour peers against an amendment. What a shame. What a shocking shame. And the same on the asylum and refugee bill being promoted by that daughter of migrants, Preeti Patel. What a disgrace that woman is. She makes me ashamed to be black. She's an exploiter, she's an oppressor, and of course she's window dressing for Boris Johnson's appalling, bigoted, racist administration. Same as Rishi. Don't be fooled, don't be taken in that. But I want to sound a note of hope that we can seize the power, as the slogan was during the Black Power period and movement. We can win. We are the many, they're the few, they're the cowards, they're the perpetrators than the betrayers, and in the end, we will overcome. Thank you very much.
Wattsworth! The awards have come to an end. There's lots of people who deserve awards as well here, I have to say, that haven't been awarded. There's lots of people who've been suspended and expelled and also excluded and terminated who deserve an award. But I know that you wouldn't want to stay here all night. So I decided to stop it at this point. Is that okay? Yeah. But before we go, we've got some music from. We've got some music to end, as we always do, with Rob Johnson coming up on the stage, and me at the vein, and we're going to have the Internationale as our final.
Crispin, you deserve.
There is an award for Crispin.
Yes.
At my mum's memorial, my partner, Michelle, amazingly organised. We had a whole thing. We actually did an award ceremony that night for Mum's memorial, and sunflowers was a big theme because it was a big thing for Mum. I think it gave her hope, a bit like Jeremy did. And we had these made to give to a select group of people who played a wonderful part on the day of Mum's funeral memorial. I have a couple left over. I would like to give you one of these memorial sunflower things of people of leader, people of hope and solidarity.
Thank you very much.
Just to let you know, I'm not going to do it in French, let alone German.
Now away with all your
heard a reasonable amount of it. I've got the impression that one of you could hear I don't know how I got that idea, but I'm very glad to see it.
COVID and there were lots of people backed off.